On our anniversary, my wife announced to the whole restaurant, "I'm leaving you, for your boss." I didn't argue, I just paid the bill. 3 days later she was escorted out of that same restaurant, by security. Chapter 1. The Anniversary Toast. The maitre d' smiled as he led us to a windowside table draped in crisp white linen. A single candle flickered between us. I had made the reservation a month in advance. 15 years of marriage deserved something special. My wife wore the dress I'd bought her last spring. She looked elegant, calm, too calm. The waiter poured our wine. She didn't touch hers. Instead, she lifted her phone, typed something, and set it down. Then she folded her hands and smiled, the kind of smile you wear when you're about to detonate a bomb. "Happy anniversary," I said. She didn't respond. Instead, she stood. She clinked her spoon against her glass. Around us, other diners turned to look, amused by the sudden attention. "I have something to say," she announced, "to my husband of 15 years. I froze. She looked at me, but there was no warmth in her eyes. "I'm leaving you." Gasps, laughter. A few forks clinked awkwardly onto plates. "Don't make a scene," she added casually. "It's for the best. I've found someone more successful." Then with surgical cruelty, she delivered the final cut. "Your boss." My breath caught in my throat. Somewhere in the background, someone actually muttered, "Damn." I didn't say a word. Instead, I looked at the bill resting quietly in its black leather sleeve. I opened it. Tucked in 3 crisp hundreds, stood, buttoned my jacket, and walked out. No anger, no begging, no words, just the quiet sound of my chair sliding back. She watched me leave, smirking like she'd won. But she had no idea what I had already set in motion. Chapter 2. The Resignation. She never saw. The morning after our anniversary dinner, I stood at the edge of the downtown skyline, holding a manila envelope and a black coffee. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was done. 15 years of loyalty, in marriage and in business, taught me that people change when they think you have no power left. She thought I was broken. My boss, apparently now her new partner, thought I'd just roll over and fade out. They were both wrong. I walked into the building I'd helped build, figuratively and literally. The tech firm had started with 6 people crammed into a loft. I was number 3. I didn't wear a title, but I wrote the code, led the product, and trained the sales team. My fingerprints were on every system. My boss, Doug, was in his office, feet on his mahogany desk, laughing on the phone. I didn't knock. I placed the envelope on his keyboard. Inside was my resignation, my final invoice, and something else he wasn't expecting. The signed dissolution clause I had demanded years ago. Doug sat up, confused. "What's this?" "My exit," I said calmly. "Effective immediately. You'll want to read the second page." He flipped it open. His eyes widened. This was buried in the old partnership terms. "You never read the footnotes," I replied. "I always did." Doug sputtered. You can't just walk away." "Not like this," I smiled. "I already did. Last night I walked out. I wasn't going to compete. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't starting over. I was starting something better. And soon, they'd both realize I hadn't lost anything. I had simply stepped back to let them walk into the trap they'd built themselves. Chapter 3. The new owner of the building. 3 days after the anniversary dinner, the same restaurant buzzed with chatter again. But this time, not for romance. It was a corporate lunch, hosted by my old company. My ex-wife had been invited by him, Doug, my former boss, to celebrate their new partnership. She arrived in a sleek white dress, diamond earrings glinting like little trophies. The hostess greeted her with a smile. "Welcome, Mrs. Hale. The private room is being prepared, Mrs. Hale." Doug's last name. She'd changed it fast. She followed the hostess through the marble corridor, chin high, heels sharp against the floor. Her laughter rang a little too loudly, the laughter of someone performing a victory she didn't quite believe in. But outside, across the street, I watched quietly from behind the tinted glass of a new car, the company car. My company's car. 2 months before the breakup, I'd quietly purchased the restaurant's parent property group. Every location in the chain, every kitchen, every light fixture, all under the new holding company I built after leaving Doug's firm. And the ink on the acquisition had dried that morning. She thought she was walking into a celebration. She was actually walking into her own curtain call. Inside, Doug raised a toast. To new beginnings, he said. His arm looped proudly around her. Waiters clapped politely. Glasses chimed. Then, one of the staff, a manager I'd already briefed, approached their table and cleared his throat. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but there's been a change in management. Doug frowned. What are you talking about? The manager handed him an envelope. Effective immediately, this property and all affiliates are under new ownership. Doug tore it open, scanning the letter, his face draining of color. Across the top, in embossed silver, were the words Walker Hospitality Group. And beneath that, in crisp black ink, authorized by Daniel Walker, founder and CEO, my ex-wife's hand trembled around her champagne glass. Who is that? She whispered. Doug didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because at that moment, the double doors opened, and I walked in, calm, composed, wearing the same black suit I'd worn the night she left me. I nodded to the manager. Kindly show them the exit. They no longer have a reservation here. They stood, pale and stunned, as the staff politely guided them out through the same doors she'd once humiliated me behind. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just turned to the staff and said softly, make sure the table's reset. Someone else deserves a better meal tonight. Chapter 4. The dinner reservation that disappeared. It didn't take long. The next day the whispers started circulating. Industry gossip spreads fast, especially when it's about someone like Doug, a man who built his career stepping over people like me. His firm had just lost its biggest vendor account, my account, which accounted for nearly 30% of their client base. My departure, once brushed off as a junior employee with no grit, was now being reevaluated under a much harsher spotlight. And as for my ex-wife, her glamorous new life began unraveling, one white linen thread at a time. That Friday she called the same restaurant, the one where she'd announced our divorce like it was a press release, to reserve a table for 2. Sorry, we're fully booked, the hostess said. But it's me, she replied, her tone stiff. I was just there 3 days ago. Check under Mrs. Hale. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, ma'am. That name has been flagged in our system. Flagged. What does that mean? It means we've been instructed not to honor reservations under that name. You're not welcome at any of our properties, per corporate directive. You can't be serious. But the hostess didn't budge. Have a good evening. Click. She tried 3 more restaurants under different names. Same result. Then she called Doug in a panic. He assured her it was a misunderstanding. He'd fix it. The next morning Doug marched into my office unannounced. I don't care what happened between you two, he snapped, slamming a file on my desk. You can't blacklist us from every restaurant you own. I didn't raise my voice. Just opened the file, a contract termination agreement, and slid it back toward him. I can, I said, and I did. But she's your wife. She was, I corrected. And you were my boss. Now you're just a man who thought his title was permanent. He stared at me for a long time but didn't say another word. He just turned, walked out, and I never saw him again. The fallout was brutal. My ex's social circle, once glittering with brunches and photo ops, began to dim. People noticed. She stopped posting pictures. Invitations dried up. The woman who once mocked me for being just a man with a paycheck was now the woman no one wanted to sit beside. Not because she lost money, but because she lost respect. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was dignified silence, the kind that stings more than a slap. Final chapter: what happened after 3 months passed. I never returned her calls. She tried, especially after Doug's firm collapsed under its own arrogance. Turns out poaching someone's spouse isn't a solid business strategy, especially when you also lose your largest client, half your staff, and your professional reputation in the same week. She emailed me once. Can we talk? Not about us. Just about where things went wrong. I didn't respond, because deep down, she already knew. But what she didn't know was the truth behind that restaurant. The one where she humiliated me. It wasn't just my favorite place. I owned it, quietly, through a shell corporation I formed when I was just a junior analyst and couldn't afford to dine there, let alone buy in. That night, the night she announced our divorce, I had already signed the final documents to acquire full control of the entire restaurant group. So when she mocked me in front of friends and strangers, she was doing it on my dime, with a wine list I curated, under chandeliers I paid for, on a reservation I had made for us. And I never told her, because she didn't need to know. Not then. What happened after? Life got calm. I kept working, not out of vengeance anymore, but pride. I bought a small cabin just outside the city. I started mentoring kids from broken homes, the kind of boys who were always told they'd never be more than their paycheck. And one day, I walked past that same restaurant. There she was, standing outside in heels that didn't fit right anymore, with a man who looked exhausted just being beside her. She glanced through the window, probably hoping to catch a glimpse of a better life, the one she threw away. Our eyes met. She tried to smile. I didn't. I just nodded once, politely, and walked on. Because by then, I'd learned the difference between revenge and reclamation. I didn't need her apology, I didn't need closure, I didn't need her to be sorry. She just needed to see that I was never the broken one. Epilogue: the door that stayed closed years past. I never changed the locks. Not because I was waiting for her, but because I didn't need to. When someone walks out of your life thinking they've upgraded, they rarely knock again. They linger at the threshold, wondering if you'll ever open it for them. She did. Twice. Once, when I was featured in Forbes, standing beside the mayor at the ribbon cutting of our newest office complex, she sent a message on LinkedIn. Proud of how far you've come. Just wanted to say, I always knew you'd do great things. She didn't know the irony of her words. Because when she left, she didn't just abandon a man. She abandoned the man who became everything she said he wasn't. The second time was more desperate. An email. No subject. Just, I miss who you were. When you were mine. But that version of me. The one who begged. The one who paid the bill in silence while being humiliated. He was gone. Buried somewhere between my first overnight shift in a garage and the moment I signed the deed to the restaurant she was thrown out of. I never replied. Some doors don't slam. They just never open again. Today, I mentor men going through brutal divorces and public betrayals. Not to help them get revenge. But to help them rebuild. Quietly. Strategically. Fully. I tell them, one day you'll be the one on the inside. And they'll be the ones knocking. You don't need to open it. Just let them feel the weight of what they walked away from. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is a door that stays closed. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. If you are watching this video, comment below and tell us where you are watching this video from. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire.